Teen Titans tonight!
Mom said I could watch iCarly tonight!
Well, I have the remote, so suck an egg!
Fine! If I can't watch my TV show, then you can't watch yours!
God, you're such a baby! I hate you! Welcome to Rewind, the show where we explore late 90s and early 2000s pop culture that has impacted me and many others. And on today's episode, we're talking about cartoons. My god, cartoons are amazing, and growing up I had plenty to choose from. Being an older brother of 5 other siblings, I get to see the types of entertainment they are growing up with, as opposed to what I grew up on, and it isn't cartoons. It's TikTok, satisfying videos, family vloggers, and everything in between. Now, don't get me wrong, that isn't necessarily a bad thing, but kids growing up in this new digital age missed out on an awesome era of being a kid and watching cartoons on the TV. Instead of getting all worked up about how thick with 2 C's my butt is, or how many likes this meme of Squidward eating food and then turning into a nuke gets, all I had to do was make sure I had the TV remote when the new episode of Danny Phantom came on. Seeing how awesome fake Becky's life is on Instagram wasn't something I had to deal with. I know Becky, and her life is not that great. The point is that cartoons are awesome and were a big part of my childhood, and seeing what entertainment kids are raised up on nowadays kinda makes me sad. I mean, there still are cartoons out there for kids to consume, but it just doesn't have the same magic it once did. Hell, even the commercials are pretty nostalgic, to the point to where there are tons of compilations on YouTube of old commercials. I hated commercials as a kid, but I for sure remember some of these. Now, this isn't a video pooping on the generation coming up and complaining what they like to do in their free time. I mean, I'm sure the generation before me said the same stuff. Go outside, the TV's rotting your brain. Listen, I've already heard it all, okay? And no judgments from me on what you like to do in your free time. All I want to talk about is what I enjoy doing with my free time as a kid. The problem I ran into while doing research for this video on all the cartoons I used to watch is that there are so many that I wouldn't be able to talk about all of them. So I'm going to just pick one show from each of the network giants I used to watch back in the day, and even then that was really hard. Cartoon Network, Disney, and Nickelodeon. Cartoon Network was always the more edgy network to watch cartoons on in my household, according to my mom. And as a kid, I didn't really understand, but it was probably because of certain shows that she felt that way. Things like Billy and Mandy, or Ed, Ed and Eddie, and even Johnny Bravo had some mature jokes, but as a kid, I didn't really pick up on them.
Mama warned me about women like you. I was hoping she was right.
Regardless, Cartoon Network had a lot of bops on it, and today I'm specifically talking about shows I watched from the 90s. There were plenty that I used to watch, from Scooby-Doo to Tom and Jerry and the Powerpuff Girls. But one in particular stood out to me as a kid. A show that gave me some comedy with nightmares on the side. Or maybe the other way around. Courage the Cowardly Dog. A comedy horror created by John R. Dilworth. In a nutshell, Courage, this purple dog, lives with his family Eustace and Muriel Banks out in the MOBFN, middle of butt-fuck nowhere. Every episode, something paranormal or weird happens to Muriel or Eustace, and it is up to Courage to save the day. For those of you who haven't seen the show, just a few different episodes that kind of encapsulate what I mean by weird as hell are, for example, in one episode, Eustace gets toe fungus and it eventually takes over his whole body, becoming a sentient mob boss character. Another episode, the Earth gets hit by a meteor, sending everyone into the future where there are banana people. A nightmare-fueled episode is where Muriel gets possessed by a demon that lives in a mattress. Lots of weird, wacky characters, but for some reason, I always loved this show. It's got a good combination of freaky and funny. Seeing all the weird and silly situations that all the characters end up in and how they go about solving them was always a blast. Its pilot episode, called Chicken from Outer Space, aired on February 18th, 1996, and was a huge hit, even getting nominated for an Academy Award. The show got greenlit and aired from November 1999 to November of 2002, with 52 episodes throughout 4 seasons. Courage is a very fun, weird, creepy show that you should check out. You can find lots of clips on YouTube or watch it on HBO Max. Oh, Disney, the best company at exploiting children and parents for money, had a pretty good lineup of cartoons for older kids and Playhouse Disney shows and cartoons for a much younger audience. And I watched all of them. From Gargoyles to DuckTales to Mighty Ducks were some of the older kid cartoons I used to watch, but I also watched shows like Bear in the Big Blue House, Out of the Box, PB&J Otter, and a show called Roly Poly Oly. Like I said, Disney had some bangers, but one in particular that I remember being a huge fan of as a kid was a little show called Winnie the Pooh. Winnie the Pooh is a yellow bear who loves honey and having adventures with his friends, Tigger, Eeyore, Piglet, Christopher Robin, and some others. Winnie the Pooh was created by A.A. Milne, I hope I'm saying that right, with the first stories about the character made back in 1926. The name came from his son Christopher Robin Milne's teddy bear. This cartoon is definitely geared toward a much younger audience. Now, with lots of Winnie the Pooh series out there, the one I watched the most was The Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, which aired from 1988 to 1991. Here is a fact that will blow your mind. Did you know that Winnie the Pooh franchise has made $80.3 billion, making it the third best-selling franchise in the world, just below Pokemon, which is number 1 at $100 billion, and Hello Kitty, which is number 2 at $84.5 billion. Yeah, it even beat Mickey Mouse and Star Wars. I honestly didn't know how big Winnie the Pooh really was. I mean, you don't really hear too much about it these days, but the numbers speak for themselves. Merchandise can go a long way. Also, Winnie the Pooh is banned in China because of memes. Remember kids, with great memes comes great responsibility. It's also fun for me to browse on YouTube and look up voice actors for some of my favorite shows and to also see what other characters they have voiced. The voice actor for Winnie the Pooh, Jim Cummings, has a pretty big filmography doing other characters such as Tigger, Pete from Mickey Mouse, and Darkwing Duck. Now, before we get into the last network, I did want to mention one other network that I did watch from time to time, but just not as much as these others. Pbs Kids was another one that I watched a bit of. It aired shows like Dragon Tales, which slapped, and the theme song is really catchy. There was also a show called The Big Comfy Couch, which is a really weird show, but hey, I watched it. And as well as Barney, of course. Fun fact, The Joy of Painting with Bob Ross actually aired on PBS Kids. I did not know that. Nickelodeon, which is probably the network I watched the most because of how many bops it had on it. From Hey Arnold to Rocket Power to Rugrats. Lots of awesome shows from the 90s, but the one that I watched the absolute most and is still one of my favorite cartoons to this day is, of course, Spongebob Squarepants. If you don't know about SpongeBob, you probably live under a rock, or your parents wouldn't let you watch it. So let me tell you a little bit about it, Rock Dweller. SpongeBob is a sea sponge that lives in Bikini Bottom. His home is a pineapple next to his two neighbors, Squidward Tentacles and Patrick Star. He also works as a fry cook at the Krusty Krab for his really greedy and stingy boss, Mr. Krabs, whose arch nemesis is Plankton, who owns a restaurant next to it called the Chum Bucket. SpongeBob was first created by Steven Hillenburg back when he was an educator to teach his students about undersea life. First called Sponge Boy, but due to the name already being trademarked, it was changed to SpongeBob. There was a preview of the show in May 1999 at the Kids' Choice Awards and premiered in July of that same year. The comedy takes you on wild rides pretty much every episode and is always a blast to jump in and watch. There are so many memorable episodes, from their camping trip encountering sea bears to Doodle Bob to Smart Patrick. But my all-time favorite episode of SpongeBob has to be Band Geeks. Squidward starts a marching band with lots of citizens from Bikini Bottom to show off for his rival Squilliam Fancy Son. The whole episode is just a hot mess watching all these band members practice to get ready for the Bubble Bowl. They get into some epic fights, and then at the very end of the episode, they all come together putting on a killer rock show for the ugly looking fish. Such a great song and fun episode. SpongeBob at one time had racked up around 15 million weekly viewers, with around 2.2 million per episode, so needless to say, it was popular. SpongeBob has spawned 3 movies, a Broadway musical, video games, and 2 spin-offs that are in the works called Squidward Tentacles and The Patrick Star Show. There are over 13 seasons of SpongeBob, which you can watch over on Paramount+. Fun fact, the voice actor for Patrick, Bill Fagerbakke, went to my rival high school growing up in Idaho called Minico. SpongeBob is still one of the greatest cartoons out there that any age range can tune in and enjoy. Old cartoons were fun and full of charm. I mean, the animation quality may not be as good as what we have today, along with people's humor preferences shifting and cultural norms as a whole, but there is no denying that people young and old enjoy cartoons. With so many banger cartoons out there for you to choose from, there's bound to be one up your alley. Thanks for watching, and until next time, be kind and rewind. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Hope you enjoyed it. Let me know down in the comment section below what 90s cartoons you watched as a kid. I'm also planning on doing an episode about cartoons from the 2000s as well. We also want to thank our Patreon supporters, always appreciated. If you want to support the show, feel free to head over to our Patreon and join today to get exclusive behind-the-scenes content, podcasts, and much more. And as always, keep it rad.